a strange thing it is to have the ability to type in a description, add a link, and have your technology shut down as soon as you start. I'll take it. I'm not very worried about the technological aspect. Just feel it's not just an obligation, but a compulsion to take part in the public discourse and just keep it rolling. Just keep it rolling. So I've got some irons in the fire. I've got a podcast, the CapmLew podcast, with my dear friend and more than a co-host, Luke Coffey. And it's been an experiment and a it's like a process of evaluating what way to go forward. I think it was actually, you know what, I'll start a podcast while we're talking, just because we've been putting out very little this last month or so because because of the arrival of a new baby, little baby boy over there in the Coffey household. And I cannot think of a better reason. I really do not like solo podcasting. It's awesome. The tech continues to flicker in and out. Probably boots everybody off or something like that. Doesn't discourage me. So I'm pulling up the podcast creation machine here, and I'm gonna turn on this little lavalier mic and strap this bad boy on, and we'll have this little chat. I think we'll do a half an hour, maybe. Don't know. So here's this. That's what it is, and we gotta strap the beard a second time to make sure that mic doesn't get too crazy. This is as far as it goes toward the so we're just oh dear, we've already begun. Yes, welcome to another episode of the CapmLew podcast with just only the single, your host, old dear brother CapmLew. He's at it again, solo dolo. So I fired up a Facebook Live here because I've been going. I think I might actually interrupt the. I am a believer. I'm a Christian, and I am a pretty darn serious one. I like to introduce myself to people as I say, "Hi, my name is Lou, and I'm extremely religious," and just let them flop around with it. Just put it right out there. Big believer in the resurrection of the Messiah. Big one. Fully convinced by heavy evidences of all manner of stuff that everybody says is, like the myths that have been part of the nations all our lives. But I got convinced otherwise by, as I say, evidences and experiences. So I kind of expect that to make me a little bit weird for people. And that comes with certain brands of apprehension and wonderment. You wonder if you're gonna, you think, oh, am I gonna turn people off? And then you remember, like, before you were a Christian, you were a serious practitioner of the punk arts. And turning people off was like kind of a core value. And then you begin to ask yourself, what happened to me? Why do I care about turning people off? And then you're like, oh, it's because if you turn people off, then they're like, they're gonna not want to know God and Jesus, and they're gonna not want to. But then I remember that like really broken and sinful people flocked to Jesus, and really hypocritical and proud people were absolutely turned off by him. And then I begin to think about, like, well, maybe I can just relax, which is usually what I do. Usually, I mean, it's a day-to-day thing, but usually I wind up relaxing and just doing the me who Jesus loves, who is not not, I mean, aside from ridiculously long clownish facial hair, not a very impressive person. And I know immediately the listening audience begins to argue against me and try to put forth the idea that I am an amazingly impressive person, and you know, I can resist those accolades pretty easily. What's that? Oh, you're not arguing? Oh, you're saying I'm a kook and a Bible salesman, and now you're promising to throw my shoes in the garbage can? Okay, that fits. That fits. That's a hard one because if I ride my motorcycle to the spot, I have to take off my boots and switch into my shoes, and I don't want my boots thrown in the trash can, and and so that makes me scared to go anywhere, because what if my boots get thrown out, or what if somebody's really smart and pees in them? That would be bad, you know, because that would be bad. Please do not pee in my boots. Please. So I spent this weekend with these guys, and it was pretty heavy. I don't interface well with, ironically, I don't interface well with professional Christianity. Oh, I just got a question on the live. Won't your boots fit in the saddle bags, though? I forgot that I have a bagger, so I guess I have a way. But do I have to lock the bags then? And what if they're listening right now and they hear me say, yeah, but they could also tip over my bike, which is another favorite of keep that Christian guy out of here. Can't have Christians in the industry, you know. And, you know, this is all part of it. This is all just part of it. And so it's 2017, I decided that I was going to have to wind up being a podcaster and yakety yakking. So I figure sometime in 2024, I'll actually start podcasting on purpose with, you know, organization and effort, you know. The only reason I ever owned a brand of skateboards and built a workshop and built skateboards didn't have to do with the industry at all, or money, or any of that. It had to do with that it was a vehicle for me to be able to share life and love and the things I've discovered with folks. And it sounds really arrogant, but I've been tasked with a great commission by Jesus himself, who has authority over all heaven and earth. Yes, dear listener, I know that sounds delusional maybe to some of you, and that's great. I would love if that sounded delusional to some of you, because that would mean that some of you are, you know, engaging. Be cool. Some of you guys might love that I said that, and I'm glad you're here too. I am. But it's you guys who think I'm delusional that I really, the people who hear about this conclusion, that I've been convinced by evidences that there is a God, that he did make us without regard to our preference, that life is a gift, and some of us hate him for it. I get it. And the world is fallen and gnarly, and it is an absolute bar fight down here. It really is. And if you get to the edge of it and you just are a spectator of a bar fight, that's a thing that people do. Our goal is spectatorship. But participating in the giant dynamic bar fight of life, you know, really participating in this bar fight, this great cosmic scrum that is life on the planet for the time being. Really getting in there and participating is it's risky business, because if you come into engagement with the real wheels of power, you're not going to be the same, and you may run into You may run into things that are going to make greater claims on your life than you would have expected. And so I spent this weekend with these Christian ministry kids. It was a conference. It was a nice little conference, like this sort of ad hoc consortium of, it was not like a conference. It was more like a sleepover with folks who, they seem to all know each other for quite a long time, having been in the like Christian skateboarding ministry circuit for some years. I think some of them a decade. I'm going to take a sip of a drink right now, dear listeners and watchers. Cheers to you. Have to whistle. So I spent this weekend, and it was very hard to drive out to. I do not have a checkered past, but I have a thorny history with official professional Christian ministries, and this is not of great concern to me. I've had this life-changing experience with, turns out to be the Son of God. Don't understand that. Have been noticing it in Holy Writ, recognize it, and it has turned me from in the darkness to light, from hate to love. I'm rocked every day, and I don't know how to reconcile it to a world that is based on money and power, and I guess, we don't have warlords in America who go village to village killing people. We don't have presently a totalitarian style dictatorship that's disappearing anyone but basically good journalists, Gary Webb. But we do have a culture that threatens to remove from us support and friendship and, I guess, acceptance by other people, which just turns out that's currency. If you do well enough at acceptance by other people, you can make a whole lot of money. And I have a son who's someone. I do. That's funny. I got a comment on here about Samoa. That's funny. Yeah, you got this pinch, and I went to the thing. It was hard to drive out. I did not know what putting myself in a room with a bunch of kids who profess this thing and are, ministry people was going to be like. And it turned out to be more than a pleasant time. It was a time where I experienced a pretty deep touch of healing, and feel like we all became better friends of the Son of Man, and gave me a reason to continue to be a skateboarder. I don't even know what to do with that concept. For some people, being a skateboarder is a fundamental identity. And for other people, it's an aspirational thing. Some people are a skateboarder, tried and true, proven, forged in fire. They have the clips. For other people, it's an aspiration. They consider themselves a skateboarder, but it's more of a misty, nostalgic, aspirational, like they give a lot of credit to being a skateboarder. They thank skateboarding. They thank it. A lot of hashtag thank you skateboarding, and a lot of behavior from brand agencies. A lot of priesthood behavior coming through. A lot of like intermediaries of the great deity behavior. Very gross, very common, well accepted. I think it's super gross. I don't think skateboarding is a person, and I don't think it's a deity, and I don't think it's our friend. And I especially don't like those ideas being fed to me by people who are branding actively on, lifestyles of destruction. It bugs me, basically. But me being bugged shouldn't knock the cheese off your cracker. I'm just a little guy over here. So I wanted to put down a half hour with you friends just to keep the connection fresh while we await the reemergence of my dear buddy and co-host Luke Coffey from the adjustment throes of new daddyhood. And also wanted to put down a marker in my history of having gone to this conference and having maybe come to appreciate that perhaps I shouldn't check out too hard on, because I've been going skating this year, and I have to tell you, some days I go skating and there is almost an overwhelming sense of discouragement. So it overwhelms my ability to skate. I've always skated and I've always created from a certain place, somewhere in the bowels, and I can feel it, dude. It's tense. I'm like, I don't know, it's vagus nerve reset, man. Seriously, holy crap. I need to do something about that. I just stuck my fingers like into my ab muscles and I'm seriously stressed, burdened, grieved, sad. It is a sense of discouragement. I go out to parks in my local area. I go out to parks and they are desolate. And that doesn't bother me. I like skating with just a few friends or skating alone. I appreciate the chance to have a nice flowing long line session. I mean, I'm not without gratitude for that condition. I am disappointed. I don't know if I would be happier if the parks were packed. I was at a skate park on Saturday and it had probably 1,000 people at it. Big event, big trick contests, youngsters hucking themselves down staircases. I was happy that it appeared that nobody got injured. That's a lovely thing. You get that dad thing going on when you're a Lou Ross. And I was struck with how just intense the climate of the human social construct appeared to be to me. Now I'm 50, I'm not young. From my youth, I've been involved in some very punk rock stuff. I ran a warehouse, I threw shows, I have been on tour, yada yada. And I'd rate Saturday's event at maybe a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 for gnarliness. Was a nice time, but it was the kids. It was the really young kids. You could see that there's a really heavy vibe, not a rare vibe, not a historically new vibe, just a pervasively heavy vibe among the kids. That it's just some dark energies that are operating very actively among the youths. And there always have been. I was myself the subject of dark energy activity when I was young. I was extremely the subject of it and experienced being set free from that too. It just was like, wow. And I noticed that the predominant culture is very, very, very a 6 on a scale of 10 volatility. And now, I think that when Luke returns, we'll have some conversations about that, because I don't think that we're in a remarkably unique time. Have you heard the term fourth turning? We appear to be, and I don't remember the author. the author's name. I haven't read the book, but I'm familiar with this construct of turnings, and we appear to be in the weak people make hard times turning. They call that, I think, a fourth turning. We appear to be in that turning. History runs in an 80 to 100 year cycle of turnings. Not that it's cyclical. I think that the cyclical dynamic of history is due to the fact that it is a tightening spiral. That's my view on didactic history. It is linear, it is cyclical, but it has an origin and a terminus, and history spirals in tightening loops. And some people think that there's a circle of life, but there's not. There's a spiral and has a beginning and an end. This is my view. You came here for my opinions. What did we say on the podcast? We say, we are on the podcast right now. We say, look, if you're listening, this is on you. Not that what I'm saying is tremendously rare, new, or even scandalous, but, we seem to be in a fourth turning, and that's fine, because there's no getting out of it, and that's fine, but we'll be speaking from the bar fight as we go forward. Here we are in what can only be described as a bar fight. I'd like to take a chance right now in this very short, we're at 19 minutes, going on 20 of just a half an hour contribution to the airwaves. I'd like to thank the folks who are watching on Facebook Live. This winds up getting ported over to our YouTube channel. And I see Marcus on here, who I love. He's my son. I see Jeff Wiseman. Good to see you. Patrick Paratori, good to see you, buddy. Patrick says stretch more. That's funny because I've been stretching very little this year, and I do have some old injuries that need stretching. I've been stretching very little, and on this weekend, I took it way down a notch. My strategy for survival was to, I'll talk about that in a second after I finish thanking everybody. Luke Coffey, Timothy Tice, God bless, good to see you. Lou Statman, glad to have you with us when you were here. I don't presume you're all watching because I know the nature of this sort of media. You drop in to see if anything's going on. I've been stretching very little and not doing many exercises. I don't consider myself to be in very, very great physical condition. I can still throw about 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of shingles from one truck to another. I was amazed that I can still do that without ill effect. I can roof a small, like a 6 square shed, 8 square shed. I can roof that with a buddy and not be sore the next day. So I'm still in pretty good shape, probably considering the long, the long view. But I'm not very strong or fit right now in my own feeling. So I'm saving up. I'm going to buy a single 18-pound kettlebell. That's the size I saw. I'd love a 12-pound one, but I'm going to get a single kettlebell, and this is my grand plan for fitness. I tried the Purple Palace gyms. I tried memberships and things, and I really do not like working out in public, because if I'm going to be exerting myself, a lot of times it causes emotions to come up, doesn't it, friends? And I don't like having those emotions in a room full of people who are probably also experiencing a lot of emotions. And I don't like changing in locker rooms. I've seen a lot of very insecure and aggressive people in the locker rooms at those places. And so I also just want to work out in my jeans. I want to be wearing my blue jeans and my boots and have a workout, and then get back on my bike and go for a more of a ride or whatever I'm doing next. So I did not know that this was a big deal to want that. Turns out you can't work out at the Purple Palace if you ride your motorcycle there, walk in boots and blue jeans, and have yourself a workout. That is a fireable offense there. Their concern with what I'm wearing bothered me, so I got rid of my membership. And but I think maybe it might be worth it for me to go ahead and do exercises and stretches. and continue to participate in this grand art form. Been very discouraged by some of the things I know and have seen and do think, but I think it might be worth it to push through and continue to participate in what has become a very it's become very fraught with very deep emotions for me, from what I've seen. So I can't unsee it. I can't unsee what I've seen being done behind the scenes in so many communities, and skateboarding is just one of them. And when I get on here and start talking with you guys, sometimes the emotions come up to burn it all down, and sometimes the emotions come up to be very careful. And maybe, well, I ran into an analogy, and I'll end with this. I ran into an analogy back in the day, before people wrote things down. They used to sit around and talk to each other. They used to sit around and talk to each other, and some of the guys were so good at thinking and talking, and that's how they learned things. They learned by listening to other people talk. And the kinds of things they knew were not the kind of things that we know now. I don't even know what tree that is. That's the kind of things they knew. They knew what tree that one is. We don't know those things unless we make a break with the daily flow and make the time to know them. So they had this, what we would probably call, they had a more primitive base of knowledge. And they would sit and listen, and they started having schools with the wise guys, and they started to discover the magic of mathematics and things like that, and begin to engage theoretical idea form, and begin to really talk about justice and injustice and all these ethical and philosophical constructs. It was a pretty good time. It was a little thing like called Greece, right? And there was a guy, he was Socrates, so they named him that. And he never wrote anything down, but happily they named this one baby Plato, and that's because he was him. And he wrote down things. So basically what we know of what Socrates said, we know because Plato wrote it down. And you're asking me, Lou, what book did you read to learn all of this about ancient Greece? And I would say back to you that I did not read a book about this. I did, but I don't remember them. I just got reminded of it in a podcast, which is how we learn now, which is ironic because we really do learn from them. That reminds me of back when people knew what tree that was, and they used to listen and think and learn. By the way, Plato wrote down those things because, and he kind of had to do it after Socrates died, because Socrates didn't like writing. I thought that was really interesting. He did not like when people read things instead of learning them together. I'm sure there's a lot there. We could probably get at some of it. But the reason I'm talking about this with the last 4 minutes we'll be together is because there was this thing about a cave. Do you guys know about this? The cave? Like people in a cave, and one person gets out of the cave. The only thing they know about the outside world is from shadows thrown inside the cave. And so they have this idea, this shadowy, two-dimensional idea of what the outside world is, and it's obviously dangerous and it will destroy you. And someone gets out, they discover the wide world outside the cave, and they think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back in the cave, and I'm going to talk to the people in the cave about this, because I love the people in the cave. I love them. And they got to come out here and eat one of these things I found. I don't know, probably found like a delicious rattlesnake and cooked it up. You know, very flaky, very tender meat, moist. And so in order to get them to taste the delicious rattlesnake that they had enjoyed on their first day out, knowing exactly what to do with a rattlesnake, they went back in the cave and began to open their stupid yap and tell people about what they had seen. And the people, knowing the outside world through the shadowy, two-dimensional images they'd had of it, immediately entered a dispute. And then, sometimes a guy would come back in the cave because, this goes on, and they'd beat the guy up or shut him up or, I don't know, cut out his tongue or something. And think of all the rattlesnake meat that he would not be able to taste once his tongue was out. Plus, can you survive having your tongue cut out? What do they cauterize it? How does anyone survive that? Is that a thing? They have to, or I'll cut your tongue out. Don't do that. So, at 28 minutes of a promised half hour and just a touch base and like that, I have to say I feel a bit like when you skin your knee and then you touch it with a salty fingertip. Just touching base with you guys because I come back in the cave and I'm trying to put this in as shadowy a sense as I can. I'm not telling you what's out there. All I'm telling you is that the shadows you see on the wall near the mouth of the cave are only shadows of what's really going on. And my concern with the speed at which we seem to be able to progress is that it may be insufficient. But then I think of, what is it insufficient for? And I think, well, it's insufficient for the prevention of, and then a list starts in my mind of things that I cannot prevent or control. So I'm going to continue at a snail's pace and be here for you. And I love your questions. I love the times when somebody sends in a question or a concern. You can do that at CapmLew Questions. That's CapmLew questions@gmail.com. Find us on Spotify, Apple, the Chromes, all of the places, including Spotify and Apple, Podbean. And also these get taken and put on a YouTube. I do not know. I think that YouTube is the CapmLew podcast, CapmLew. Right? There is no N in CapmLew. I don't know. I thought it was spelled Captain. Everyone wants to put an N. Is that because of the crunch? This is not a breakfast cereal. Okay? Grow up. So, here we are at 30 minutes. I promised 30 minutes. You got a Facebook Live. It's going to be a YouTube. It's going on the bean. And for what it's worth, probably worth something. Cheers to you. Happy trails. Laters.